welcome to another Unwinding with Fiber and Fabric. It has been a busy week this week. I have been in the sewing room quite a bit. I have been working to get my ongoing Halloween quilt finished so that I can share that with everyone before Halloween actually arrives. I'm very close. I should be able to stitch on the binding probably not long after this video becomes available. So I have been very busy. We had cooler temperatures descend. In fact, earlier this week, we had an overnight low of 42 degrees Fahrenheit. I believe that is 5 degrees Celsius. And you know, when it says 5 degrees, that actually does kind of say, ooh, it's a little bit chilly outside. But as a woman of my age, and for those of you who have either made it to this age or have made it to the other side, you will know 42 degrees actually felt really comfortable when I got up the other morning. I needed to go and to a doctor's appointment, just a regular checkup. And I took my shawl and I was like, oh, this is nice. It's nice shawl weather. Then I walked into the doctor's office and started melting. So I have certainly appreciated the cooler temperatures. I have had to turn on the pellet stove in my sewing room because my furry companions would protest a little too much if I didn't. But beyond that, I'm just embracing the cooler temperatures, letting the house cool down, and putting on shawls and sweaters and just bundling up. Soon enough, we will be having to turn the heat on, but for right now, it just feels wonderful to have long sleeves, to be able to snuggle in a shawl, and just enjoy the change in the season. But it does. I seem to craft a lot at this time. I transition away from my spinning, and I'm in the sewing room, and I think it's because I love the season of fall, and I love the holiday season, and the decorating that it inspires. So this week has been a week where I have been working on projects that are already that have already been constructed, with the hope of having my Halloween quilt up on the up on display by Halloween, so that I can also move right into finishing my my English paper piecing, wall hanging, and have it ready for November. So I've been working on that, but in the sewing room, I decided I was going to try to do a little tidy and maybe tackle a few of the unfinished projects that got pushed to the wayside when Tour de Fleece started. So I have a few of those things, but first I want to share with you the little tiny bit of fiber that I did play with this week. I did not get a spinning wheel out, but I couldn't resist playing a little bit with that giant Romney fleece. In the discussion and comments for the video that I posted last week, there was a discussion about how Romney isn't typically all that greasy. So I went back and I looked at the fleece, and no, it was not it was not heavily coated in lanolin. It was yoke. And while yoke is a problem if you want a pure white fleece, it's not a problem if you are a dyer like myself, because I tend to over dye almost everything, and the yellow tone of the yoke won't interfere with that for me. With that being said, I did test it, and it was strong locks. There was no weak points, except for in some of the kind of gunkier tipped bits of the fleece, the very tips. They were coated. They're just best to snip off anyhow, and some of them were a little weak, but overall, so I'd say 95% of the fleece, strong, beautiful, wonderful to play with, but on the yellow side. So I was joking, it's a golden fleece. But to me, it's not a problem to have the yoke, especially for the price point of getting that big fleece. But I played around with it. I had to grab a little. I left the wash locks on my desk, of course. But it was also mentioned that I think I posted a picture there's a community segment of my channel, and I posted a post with a picture there. I'm not sure how many people actually saw it. I didn't know that the community thing existed until I think just this past year. I'm not sure if it's been around that long, but I decided to post a picture there, and so it is there in my channel if you go to my channel. But I played around with a little bit of it when I washed it, and because it was also mentioned that it's not doesn't felt as much as say others. Well, I would definitely agree. It's not the kind of fleece that if you look at it felts. It actually can handle, in my case, the one I have, it could handle a little agitation as I cleaned it. With that being said, though, it does felt. And this was just a few moments, really, not very long, maybe 5 minutes at most, of rolling a wet pile of fleece in my hands to make this little bead. This is basically a lock that I drafted just in my hands. And then while on my computer, checking messages and everything, I just started playing with it. And it was, while it was wet, just started playing with it. And it is, I guess, technically a single. It's a little bit like pencil roving, but it doesn't, I'd have to pull a lot harder than I am right now to draft it apart because it is slightly felted. So, recognizing that it had felting properties and recognizing that I have 11 pounds of it, which I will actually lose, I'll lose a little bit for the lanolin and some of the gunky tips and dirt, but I have a lot of it. I decided, since I'm not really feeling up to spinning right now, what else could I do? So, it is the season of pumpkins. Put that so you can see the little stem. This is needle felted. And I did that all this morning before getting ready to record this video. So how did I do this? So anybody that's done needle felting will know what needle felting is. For those of you who may not know what needle felting is, it is taking fiber like wool and felting it by using a bunch of needles. Some vicious needles. These needles each have little kind of burrs on the end that make the fiber go down. They also come in singles. I have just an old piece of foam. It's not even the foam that you normally buy for needle felting. This is some foam that came out of a package years ago. It's wonderful. The needles go in really quite well, so I use this. But, and I really did do this in the couple hours just prior to recording this video. I took some freshly washed handfuls of the Romney fleece. I put them in some nylon stocking, and then I tied it off, threw it in the dryer, and I made dryer balls. That was the first step. I saw somebody doing this with purchased dryer balls. Now, I will mention, I should have, if I were making a dryer ball, I should have opened up all of the locks before putting them in there to felt, because you can actually still see some of the lock definition of my little needle, or my little dryer ball. So it is partially felted. Because I didn't open up those locks and make it really fluffy, it's not completely felted together yet. This is also only about an hour and a half in the dryer, tumbling around on high heat. So it's actually still wet. That worked in my favor because I took this raw form of a dryer ball, okay, and yeah, as it's nowhere close to being finished. It could compress down a lot more. I took this out of the pantyhose and took it over to my little foam. But how did I get it to go orange? Well, really simple. I'm going to set this down. There are videos showing how to do this, but I'm just going to put the foam down. I took this and I took some orange, and this is the Romney as well, and I wrapped it in it lightly, just covered it, and I started needle felting it down. Now, so in addition to showing you this, and there's lots of little tutorials showing you how you needle felt in and compress to get the ribs in, and I just took strands of the green to make it so it stood out just a little bit more, the little spines of the pumpkin. But what I wanted to share with you is the tip. These little containers are the containers that things like frozen lasagna, single serving frozen lasagna comes in. My husband and I get these for those times when I just am neither one of us are physically able to come up with something to eat. We get this, what they consider a large single serving, and for us, we cut it in half. It's for the two of us. It works great. But these containers are designed to go in your microwave with that frozen lasagna and be microwaved. So we keep them because they work really great for paint trays, but they are perfect for individual little small quantity dye pots. So I legitimately just maybe 3 hours, 2 hours ago, put some freshly washed, still wet Romney locks into these containers, put in some vinegar, put in some water, sprinkled just a little tiny bit of commercial acid dyes for wool in, and then put it in the microwave. I believe I did 2 minutes, followed by a rest of about 2 or 3 minutes, and then another 2 minutes. It absorbed all the dye, and I have pumpkin. Now, if you notice, you'll notice that there's some differing variation to the color. When you do not pre-dissolve your dye powders, they'll tend to split. They don't necessarily dye evenly. Well, that works great when you're doing these kind of locks. So when it came time to then needle felt, I just made sure to, this is still damp. I'm getting my fingers wet. So that shows you it was just done a bit ago. But you open up the lock, okay? Lay it on top of the pumpkin. Put this on your little mat, okay? Because this is not safe the way I'm showing it for TV, but you then, and I'm being very careful not to poke very far, but you just start punching and it felts it into the wall. Then, once you've got enough of the orange around it so that it looks like it's now orange rather than cream, you take a single one and you do lots of compressed in area, and it will create the impressions. It will shape. See, I did felt it just a little bit. I'll work on that one a little later. But I wanted to show that with you. And yes, it's not a tutorial. It's just in case you haven't done needle felting or haven't seen needle felting done. I just wanted to share those little bits with you. It's fascinating and it's fun. I have dabbled with it. I haven't done a ton of it. I have a few things that I've made. yeah. I have it on hand because it's fun every once in a while to add it as a component. But I will tell you, it was so much fun with this. When I took the strands of, let me grab one of these. So I took a strand similar to this, and I'd already compressed, I had already needle felted it all in, so it was all compressed in, and then I compressed in these by needle felting along a line so that it dipped in, it shaped it. I just took a strand like this, I laid it over the top like that, leaving a little bit at the top and a little bit at the bottom, because you can see there's a little bit down, and then I needle felted that in. And the stuff that was at the top, after I got all of the spokes in, I kept twisting them together and felting, because it was still wet, my fingers were still wet, felting them together. So all of the little hairs coming up from these spines, that's what forms the little tiny stem. The leaf, on the other hand, I just grabbed a bunch of it, put it on, just grabbed a pile, opened it up, put it on the foam, and I just started punching it and bringing it into a shape. After I'd punch for a while, I'd pull it up. I'd punch some more. Shape it a little. I almost dropped that. That would not have been fun. My feet would not have been happy. And it's starting to felt together. And I just kept doing that until it had a leaf shape. So, very quick little project. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. And having the dryer ball that I had made myself, slightly damp still, actually really, I think, sped this along for me. Because I think, well, we wet wool felts faster than dry wool does. So yeah, I just made, and it's, the little leaf here is a little bit three-dimensional shaped, and then it's just attached by poking that little needle to hold it. So it was just so much fun, and I thought it was a wonderful way to use that beautiful Romney that I bought, that I was testing out, seeing, what its properties were once it was clean. That can be a lot of fun. I may try to actually make my own beads this year. We'll see. I know that all of these things, as crafting goes, you can now purchase them already formed, already felted. So if you're interested in trying this, but you don't have 11 pounds of fiber that you want to use, you can purchase pre-felted dryer balls, craft wool balls, on places like Amazon and your craft stores. You can purchase them already felted, and then it's just a matter of taking and creating your own, unless you want to buy that as well, creating your own covers. So that's just something fun, something a little bit different. And he can now go with my other pumpkins, see over there, and sit right there with my other pumpkins, ready for pumpkin season. So I wanted to share that with you. I also wanted to point out the flowers behind me. So I love yellow roses. They have been my favorite rose since I was a very little girl. They still are, my favorite color of rose. I prefer carnations more than roses as far as receiving flowers go. But I prefer those I like them in yellow as well. But the thing is, it has gotten more expensive to get fresh flowers. And when we moved here, the way we have our dining room table set up, or I should say our table, because it's our dining table. Okay. The way we have it set up, I have a beautiful space above it, because it has a drop leaf that I can set it up against a wall. so it doesn't take up as much space because it's just my husband and I. And I have a perfect little space of wall behind it that I have a wall hanging on, and it just cries out for a vase of flowers. So for a while, I was, every so often when I go grocery shopping, getting a fresh batch of flowers. And that sometimes is a little bit out of my price range. Well, the bottom line is I'd rather buy fleece than flowers. I have cats, so I always have to be careful about bringing in anything that they might eat. I have a beautiful display of dried foliage flowers that I just love. It's all autumnal. I have it in a red vase. If you watch my different videos, you'll see it on the hutch behind me, sometimes up at the top. I've shared pictures of it at different times in different places, but I love it, but I can't put it on the table. It would be the perfect thing for my dining table. But because it is real plant material, my cats try to eat it. So it is up out of the way where the cats aren't going to get it or damage it. And so I've been kind of going back and forth. I wanted a display on my table. And I asked my husband if he would make this wood vase. And yes, I go back and forth. Is it a vase? Is it a vase? I use both almost equally. But he made that. That is a wood vase for flowers. And it is big enough we could put a skinny glass vase in, a jar in, so that it could hold water. But I just couldn't bring myself to purchase the cut flowers. It wasn't happening. So the other day when I was on Amazon, I finally broke down, and because there's a little bit of a story behind this. My mother-in-law loved tulips. Her family ancestry was from Holland. She loved tulips. She had a vase of tulips on her. She had an organ that she would play, and she always had this display of tulips, and I thought it was a wonderful idea. If you can get a good quality imitation flower, they look lovely, and that's what I ended up finding. Now, when I first put them together, the big tall leafy looking things hadn't arrived yet. So I have a picture, I'm sure I'll show you, of what it looks like. And it looks, in the photo, it really looks like I've been given this wonderful bouquet of fresh flowers. And it fills a space on my dining table that I want to have filled. I can change it out seasonally. I have another set that is much easier to make look Christmassy, so I'll swap around as the seasons change. But the thing I love about this is it doesn't matter if it's what season it is. It is the kind of color that fits with the decor around my dining table. It makes me happy. It makes me smile. So that was a little gift to myself the other day. The feeling of fresh flowers, the feeling that I get from them, but without needing to change out the water, not worrying about the cats eating them, not worrying about it getting knocked over, because my younger kitties are just not as disciplined as my bigger kitties. And so that was a little gift that I gave to myself. And I thought it would be nice in today's vlog to have that behind me. And I didn't even realize, yes, I'm matching the baby's breath. So that's one of the things that I also have put together, just a grouping of fabric flowers that brightens up the house, brings in the season, and brings a little bit of joy. So into the sewing room, let's go. I started making a bag at the end of June with the hopes of being able to use it as a knitting bag or for when I was going out and about. I have not yet managed to get back out and about to my knitting groups. I'm hoping that in November that I will be able to do so. My husband's work schedule changes again, and it will be a little more conducive to me heading out. And I'm starting to feel a little bit better and think I can start resuming some of the activities that I stopped at the end of July. But this bag, I was so close to having it done. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to hand quilt what would be the back fabric for it. And I did get it done before Tour de Fleece started, but I didn't have the energy to go and construct the final part of the bag. So it is a design by, let's hold that out of the way, by the embroidery company Kreative Kiwi. It's all machine embroidery. It's pieced together all in the machine embroidery hoop. The fabric is actually a dark burgundy fabric that I have used a bleach solution to remove some of the color, getting this very lovely textured look. The back is hand quilted, and ooh, yay, you can you can see it showing up on the camera. I can see it in the camera. The photos I've taken of it, the quilting kind of disappears. The funny thing about the quilting, I was rushing really to get it done, and about midway of quilting the big panel of fabric, I forgot which thread I'd been using. So half of the quilting stitches are done in black and half of them are done in purple. Because I ended up grabbing the wrong spool because I'd been working on a quilt that had purple in it. So, but it's hard. You really have to look close to notice it. But it's a fully lined bag. It's just, I'm going to enjoy it. And yes, I'm going to use it, I think, as a knitting, the whole knitting. I think it will be wonderful. Hanging from it is a keychain. Okay. And it's in the hoop keychain by Kreative Kiwi. I've been doing a number of their designs because I like to try to when I purchase the designs, I want to actually see, work them out. So I've been going through some of my files to actually use them. And I found this, it was a bookmark that they had, and it had a Sunbonnet Sue, and I'll show that in a design in a minute. And what I did is I took their Halloween, because I had this little piece of leftover fabric that I wanted to use. And you'll see here it has a little flap. And I'll show you some more of these here in just a minute, but I wanted to mention this for the people who don't have machine embroidery capability in their home. So the thing with this, one of the things when we're sewing, whether we're sewing by hand, by machine, is having our outside edge nice and crisp and clean when we want to have it lined, turning it inside out and leaving a little opening to turn it inside out. It's very hard to get that nice and crisp and matched up, especially if there's curves. So whether this is a trick that we do with machine embroidery, what you do is you actually take a little folded piece of fabric. So there's the edge, little piece of folded fabric, and you lay them over the top of each other so that you can turn everything, so you can sew around the whole outside, then turn it right side out. And now all I need to do is sew up across there with a little ladder stitch or a whip stitch, sew that closed. Okay. Technically, I could just take a little tiny bit of I'm going to forget the word. It used to be called stitch witchery or something like that. But a bonding piece of self-adhesive or heat bond. Put a strip of heat bond there, and I could just heat bond it together. But I can stitch that together, And now all my edges are nice and clean, because rather than leaving a little opening that I turn everything out through, I did it by, and actually it might be easier with this one. So you can now see there's the flap, the two pieces, they're overlapped. I sew everything around, turn it right side out, and now it's just a matter of sewing that closed. So I decided to make, this was a leftover scrap of the muslin and a little leftover Halloween, so I wanted that for my bag. And these are kind of a cable keychain loop that you can buy. It's just a little cable that twists on, and I hang my little decorations off my bag. I can hang my keys on it as well, and that's the idea. But I wanted to make a few of these because I have a little box here in my front room, and I like to have little gifts so that if I have people come to visit or find myself at the last minute needing a thank you gift, something of that nature, I like to have on hand some little gifts. And for me, these little keychain fobs, I have them in all sorts of different shapes and sizes and variations. I like them because you don't have to put keys on them. They can be just hanging. Let me show you on the bag. As bag bling. And I love that. I use a lot of baskets. I use a lot of woven baskets, and I'll use one of those cable rings and put it around the handles of the woven baskets, and then I'll attach happy little sayings or these keychains. I'll attach the little holder that holds my hand sanitizer and things of that nature. And keys can also be attached. But I love having little decorations hanging off my bags. They make me happy. I'm not worried about whether or not anyone else is smiling from them. If they do, it is purely a bonus, but it makes me happy to have them. So I hope other people, I know that keychains and things like that, key fobs, are popular right now, especially with some young people. And so I made these. And I have always been a huge fan of Sunbonnet Sue. And so I made all of these in what we call red work or black work. In this case, it's blue. These little tiny Sunbonnet Sues doing different things so that I have a stack of these on hand. I did them in blue because I had this wonderful fabric that I felt like I had lots of it, so I could use a bunch of it up. And I loved the feel, the color. It's feminine, clearly. But it's feminine in a way that is, I think, a little bit more variety than what we oftentimes think of as feminine. To me, I love Sunbonnet Sue. It's just every variation of her. And these make me happy. I would definitely have these on my bag. I've made mug rugs with some of these designs. But yeah, it was just a little project. And so and this is why I really wanted to share it. While I did these in my machine embroidery hoop, you could replicate these with hand sewing. You could replicate them with just a regular sewing machine. You could have fun fabrics and just have fun fabrics on them. It would be a fabulous way to use, get this one off, some of the really fun Halloween fabrics. So there's a lot of different ways you could take something as simple as this and bling them up to be able to use some of the really fun fabrics that I think we're drawn to but we then go, how are we going to use this? And additionally, depending on the size of Christmas tree you had, this would be another way of making Christmas ornaments. So even if you don't have machine embroidery, the concept of these is something that can definitely be done without machine embroidery. In fact, I suspect that's where it originated, and then the machine embroidery people took them on. But think of all the fun for the different holidays and different gift giving. Gift tags. Oh my goodness. And all this is a little, I believe it's a 3mm grommet eyelet. Either of those, you can search those, that I have punched. I've used an eyelet punch to cut the hole through of the layers. Then I've put in, this is a self-backing grommet, because I have a ton of those. But you just put that little eyelet grommet in there. I've used a swivel keychain. It's a clamshell, but it's on a swivel. And I really like those. So if you're trying to come up with some ideas for the upcoming holidays, gift giving, birthdays, or whatever, if you have this is a wonderful, wonderful thing. In fact, you could combine some of this concept with this concept, and you could have a lot of fun. So I wanted to share those with you because it's the kind of thing that it makes it, I think it makes this going into this season, I think it makes it a little less stressful when you have on hand some quick and easy items that you can share if the need arises, especially when you have parties that you might be invited to. That using something like this as a gift tag. The other thing with this, so this is machine embroidery. You can color on muslin fabric so easily. You can take crayons. I've even shown it in past videos. You can take crayons, color all over it, put it between two pieces of kitchen paper, okay, to protect your ironing board and your iron, or a couple pieces, and then put a hot iron on it, and the wax melts in, taking the color with it into the fabric. So get out your artistic skills. You don't have to have fancy equipment. This can be done very easily. I know people will color on muslin fabric with color pencils. You can you can do fabric paints. You can do regular acrylic paints if you use a fabric medium to help thin it out so that it goes in. You can use Sharpie marker. I mean, a lot of ways, and then whatever fabrics kind of match the theme. But this is a way you can take any different type of shape, and stitching along a line that's already drawn makes it so that it's much better seams. And this little envelope type piecing on the back makes it so that all that wonderful sewing is done and hidden, and just it makes it fast. So I wanted to share that because I think it is a quick and easy and a joy-filled way of preparing for the holidays. And oh my goodness, I thought this was going to be a shorter video, and it might be a few minutes shorter, because we are now, I think I've covered my bag, I've covered my little pumpkin, I've covered my my little keychain or luggage tag or label for a present, gift tag, ornament, whatever shape. In fact, I may have to do a few more like this just to have to show more of those in the future. That sounds like fun with Christmas fabrics. And now it's time to share my English paper piecing block. Now, I wanted to really quickly say with this one, I will again upload the pattern. Let me show you the back. Show the back, okay? I'll upload the pattern. What I'm going to tell you, if you have not done a lot of quilting and you try this block, anytime you have this specific corner setting pieces, okay, do not trim off the tip end of the fabric. It's going to be really important to have some extra there, because depending on the thickness of the paper or cardstock you're using, it can kind of contract the fabric a little bit when you're trying to set everything in, and having a little bit extra gives you some wiggle room. Important piece in this is having wiggle room is very important. The other thing I wanted to mention with that, when you're putting these borders on, I use a thick card for my paper piecing because it's easier on my hands. But because I'm using a thicker card, it's actually making all of my pieces kind of expand a little bit compared to what I have as my borders. So you might have to fudge a little bit, or you could just not worry about it being completely 100% down to the millimeter square. Don't get frustrated if all of a sudden you find it's a little bit, just make sure always cut your pieces, the fabric, a little bit bigger seam allowances than the standard 1/4 of an inch that you would be using if you were doing foundation, or if you were doing template or assembly line patchwork piecing. So I like this one. It is another one that I can definitely see myself doing more of. I cannot remember what it's called. It might be something like courthouse, or no, courtyard. That's what it is. It's a variation of something called a courtyard. And I put it on point. It's so much fun. You could definitely make it without all of the muslin border pieces. Let me see, just like that. You could have it like that, and it is really sweet. So I'll have that uploaded, and with that, I am going to wish you happy crafting, happy unwinding with a little bit of fiber and fabric, and we will see you next week. Until then, blessings and have a wonderful day.